How do you communicate calmly so that you have conscious communication in your relationships? In this video, I'll share with you 7 tips that are going to really support you in situations with others, and so that you can actually get the outcome that you desire and is the best for everyone. Also, make sure that you don't miss out. Stay to the end, because number 6 is absolutely key. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Simon Lovell, bringing you growth in under 10 minutes. As always, hit that subscribe button and also hit the little bell to make sure that you get my regular updates, bringing you growth to support you moving forward. So, the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to communicating calmly and having those conscious communication, dialogues between people, is that while I'm going to give you some tools today, the truth is, the raw, honest truth is that in my experience working with so many people, mentoring, coaching, guiding them, oftentimes there's a deep root of something that needs to be healed so that the boiling kettle isn't there as often, right? It doesn't flare up as much. Because if someone's not speaking calmly, or maybe you're not speaking calmly in situations, and just everything's so tense and you want to just verbalize things aggressively, often it's not the initial thing that's the issue, it's the unresolved, deeper part of us that needs to be dealt with. Sometimes that's trauma. I can remember, in my life, I'm in a situation now where in my relationships and just conversations, I'm just so calm, but it wasn't always that way. Why? Because I healed through, I self-expressed. And so I wrote this book called The Black Ball, which you might want to pick up. It's a very short read. It's a couple of hours read. It's called The Black Ball, Does Anybody Else Have a Secret? And it talks about my healing and my spiritual journey. So that's the reason why I wanted to just share that with you. So now let's talk about a situation that you may be in. The first thing that you want to do is you want to slow down, okay? You want to slow everything down. Why? Because the mind and the ego is super active, and when it's fast, it's going to flare up faster. So if you can just recognize that and just start to slow things down, that can really help. That can just be from breathing differently, which is number 2, right? You've got to breathe. You've got to breathe so that you bring yourself back into your heart, because when we're in our heart communicates different from our ego. Our heart communicates differently from the mind, the monkey brain, okay? The third one, which is space. Sometimes we need to create space for ourselves and other people, which then allows us to, again, bring ourselves back into our heart so that we can come back in a much calmer way. Now, in relationships, we all have a sequence and a pattern. So you need to know what that sequence and pattern is. If, for example, you are in dialogue and something flares up, what's your natural reaction? Is it to kind of fight and get it resolved? Is it to walk away and come back? Once you know your sequence and you know someone else's sequence, that really helps, especially in intimate relationships, right? So creating space is really key. And sometimes we don't like space, particularly, guys who are insecure and jealous. Why? Because we fear, right? We fear that means something else. For example, that, that person's going to leave. So just understand that space just means creating an energetic space for us to be able to get ourselves back to who we are, or closest to who we really are, okay? The next one is the rule. What is going to be your rule in communication? For example, the concept of conscious communication is new for a lot of people. So you need to create a rule. Do you communicate calmly in conversations? Is that what you want to do? Create a rule for this, because that way, when something happens and you're in a scenario, you go to your rule. My rule is I don't communicate unless I'm calm. Okay, that's really important. The next thing also, which is boundary. Okay, so if we're having a very intense conversation and there's a lot of shouting and all of that, we need to be able to create an energetic boundary. So how do you set that up? Well, it needs to be a discussion with yourself, and it also needs to be a discussion also with the person that you're with. Maybe you're in a lot of conversations that are very heated and you're not calm with the same person. So what is going to be a boundary? Okay, if something flares up to a certain energy, for example, where you notice things start to brew up, your boundary is that you only communicate under circumstances. For example, big one is when children are not in the room, right? It's because when children observe aggression, they're seeing something unhealthy in a relationship. So oftentimes that's a boundary and a rule that we need to set up, and space and breathing and all of that's really, really important. The other thing, which I want to mention too, which is run through a conversation before having a conversation, okay? So this video is about having calm communication. So a good way to have a much more calm conversation is to have it, speak it in the mirror, just verbalize it, get it out. Because just in the process of self-expression, it loses some of its charge, okay? And remember, it's just energy. Communication is energy. So we communicate in energy which is aggressive, or we communicate in energy which is calm. It's a choice. We have a choice. But the big thing which I want to ask you, and a really powerful question, which is why, so if you're watching this video and you communicate in a way right now which is not calm, I want you to ask this question, which is, why are you communicating in a way that isn't calm? Now, the answer for that might be something like, well, I believe that, look at the language, right? I have a belief that if I shout, then someone else is going to get the point. Well, the truth is, what happens is that flares someone else's ego up, and you've got two people in a fight. One of the best things to do to get our point across is to be calm and present. And there's much more potency in presence than there is in shouting our way through a situation where no one's actually hearing us. So when we're shouting, right, things aren't being heard. When we're sitting and we're calm and we're actually just we're relaxed in our body, we've got to start to notice as things flare up and then breathe, do the things that I've mentioned, and then bring ourselves back into relaxation. And that's a boundary, that's a rule that we set, okay? So hopefully you found that useful. Again, I just want to reiterate what I said at the start of the video. These are great tools, okay? But to look at resolving something from a baseline where it's actually not part of you so that it doesn't just brew up as often, we've got to get into the black ball, okay? So check that out. Oh, wrong way. Black ball. Now, I developed this book and I wrote this book after meditation because of the impact that it was having with the people that I was working with, and it's really about expression. That black ball signifies that thing that needs to come out, and then in that thing coming out, which might be the trauma or the release or the letting go of something from your past, okay, that means that the kettle doesn't boil up as often, and when the kettle doesn't boil up as often, you're not going to get that kind of aggression in conversation. So where I used to be that way, it's just not part of me anymore. And that's where we want to ultimately get to. But of course, everyone's at a different part of their journey. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that video. I've got some more videos coming up for you. Check these out. These are going to really support you on your journey. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you very soon. Take it easy. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. If so, hit that subscribe button and also hit the bell to make sure that you get the regular updates. Also, here's a couple of videos that may support you further in your journey. Also, head to modernspiritualman.com where you will find about my deep mission to support men all over the globe. Take it easy and I'll see you very soon.